Okay, guys, we're going to get started. I appreciate you coming on today. What I want to cover today is some pretty advanced topics on Facebook. And I'll kind of start with a little story. I guess about 2 weeks ago, I was in New York City, and was the main speaker at a pretty big event for about 600 independent insurance brokers. And basically, the speech was on social media and Facebook. And probably the first question I got, which was a great question, was, Ken, what do you think is the difference between, an expert, an insurance agent who's an expert, and a guy who's a beginner? And, what traits does the expert have and what traits does the beginner have? So it kind of got me thinking, and that's kind of how I've shaped today's webinar, is to kind of go over those things that, the advanced user understands and accomplishes on a consistent basis. So, I think the number one thing that's different between the beginner and the expert is understanding what's called the viral impact and then craving it, right? So here's an example of an agency that's probably in the top 1% of the country using social media. And what you're looking at is their page. Their name's Post Insurance. And again, what I wanted to cover was the viral impact. So what you can see here, guys, is they have 19,490 likes, okay? That's the amount of people that have come to their page and clicked this like button. And, in layman's terms, that is the foundation of success right there, because what that means is that's their potential distribution. And the difference between the beginner and the expert is the expert knows that distribution is king. And distribution is how he's going to make more sales and get more referrals, right? So that right there is the most important concept to understand. Once you understand that, then you start to think about posting. And you think about how to increase your distribution. And, you guys are welcome to take a look at these guys, Post Insurance. They're crazy. I mean, they are not what you would consider a typical professional, a typical professional insurance agency when it comes to what they post. They do post some things on insurance, but a lot of the stuff they post is pretty silly. And you can scroll through and kind of take a look at it. And again, their philosophy, and I've worked with these guys for a long time, their philosophy is interaction. They want to get that distribution. They want to get that viral aspect. So let me just kind of give you the mathematical or science to what I'm talking about. So as I mentioned, they have 19,490 fans of the page. When they post, that's their potential distribution. 19,000 people are going to get that post on their news feed. But what they go after is they go after what's called the viral marketing. So under the post here, I'm kind of highlighting, you'll see a like button, a comment button, a share button. When those buttons get clicked, that specific post is going to go to the person who clicked its distribution. So what I'm saying is if you have all these people who are seeing your post and you start to get them clicking like, comment, and share, now your post can go to their connections. So you'll see that one person shared it, okay? And if I click on that person, I can see it was Joyce McCardell. Okay, so I'm going to go to Joyce's page, and I can see down here that Joyce has 553 friends. Okay, so what that means is the post went to their 19,400, plus, because Joyce shared it, it went to her 500 friends. And if we go through these 22 people that liked it, and we click on each person, and add up how many friends they have, that's the viral distribution that they gained. So I'm going to estimate if, all 22 of these, let's just say all 22 of these people had 100 friends each. That's an extra 2,200 people in the distribution pool, and this post had a potential to go to over 22,000 people, okay? None of that would happen if they didn't have the likes, if they didn't have the distribution. So my point to the whole kind of story there, guys, is that the foundation of getting to that next level of being an expert is getting the distribution. You may have 5 fans, you may have 100, you may have 1,000. you always have to work on getting more. No questions asked. And the reason being is we know the insurance industry is a non-impulse industry. So what does that mean? What that means is people do not buy insurance on impulse. They buy it usually because a life event occurs, right? They buy a house, they get a car, they have a kid, they start a company. All of those life events usually require some form of insurance to, feasibly move forward. So my point is that as insurance industry salesmen and the CEOs and entrepreneurs, we want to position ourselves to be touching as many people as possible so that when they have that life event, they think of us and they come to us. So that's the real whole point of social media. It's just a numbers game. And right now in 2013, as we move into 2014, those numbers are increasing still on social media. So there's no negative effect, assuming you're consistent but efficient. And that's kind of my next thing. And that's the difference between the beginner and the expert. The beginner's putting an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day on social media, fooling around, trying to accomplish their goals. The expert is spending 5 minutes. And really, guys, you should be on here 5 to 10 minutes a day. And that doesn't mean, and I know this sounds crazy, but that doesn't mean you're not logging in 50 times. But maybe you're only logging in 10 seconds at a time. Glancing, reviewing, done. Move on. 30 minutes go by, glancing, reviewing. 30 minutes go by, then you post. Takes a minute to post. So my point is that's kind of the next difference between the beginner and the expert. It's being efficient, not being on here forever, spending little amounts of time, but consistently monitoring, consistently keeping the page active. And that, obviously when you start to look at these guys like Post Insurance, and I'll go through some other examples, you're going to see that they're posting every day. They are they're getting comments. They're going through and they're answering those comments. It's alive, and they're living with it per se. The next thing, which is beyond important, is that you need to market your page to your clients and that's supposed to be new customers. And what that means is ask yourself right now, how much proactive marketing are you doing? Are you sending out emails to your clients talking about your social media presence? Are you are you publishing documents, mailing them, having them hung on your wall, on your car? That's the next level. And I don't mean to ramble on here, but I think you'll see in this first one I said you crave it. Okay? That's the difference between a guy like me, who I crave it. I know every connection I get is gravy, compared to the beginner who just doesn't get it. Hey, I'm kind of wasting some time, nothing's happening. Once you start to understand the viral aspect of it, then you start to say, wait a minute, I want more people to connect with me. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. At this point in time, 2013, heading into 2014, 82% of all insurance agencies now have social media presence. It's something crazy like that. So to get the upper hand on your competition, you have to proactively market your presence. You have to tell people about it. They are not just going to go there. You have to proactively market it. And to do that, you have to have a system in place to, again, be efficient. Efficiency is the key. Obviously, all of you guys are beyond busy. We do not have that much free time to be fooling around. We have to have a system in place that, one, tells people about the presence, what it offers, and most importantly, how to get there and how to connect. And if we have staff members, it's important that they're on the same page, that they're able to communicate this as well to all the interaction they're having with the client base. Because again, guys, it always does start with our client base. That's what we're after. Those people, we don't have to sell them that we know what we're doing. We're already doing business with them. We've already proven ourselves to our client base. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we're after the interaction, the viral aspect. We want to get in front of our clients, friends, and family. So in order to do that, it always starts with the client base. We want to connect with our clients to get in front of the people they know, because at the end of the day, that's where referrals come from anyway. So you have to have a system in place. And I hate to say it, But this is the thing that frustrates so many people. You have to understand that there is no right way to do this stuff. Obviously, I have a system that's worked for my company, and I try to share that and help you guys as best I can. But at the end of the day, it's not the way. Because with social media, it's about creativity to some extent, and that you have to understand that there's no book you can read that's going to give you all the answers. The answers are going to come from trial and error. And the best thing I always like to say is think of social media kind of like being a comedian up on stage, okay? You're up on stage, you got a few jokes, and you go out there and you tell the joke to an audience of 100 people. And, you know, some people laugh, some people do nothing, and some people kind of, you know, they don't like it. But in general, let's say most people like it. Then you go on, then you walk out of that building and go into another building. That's the other guy's social media presence. You get up on stage and you tell the same joke, and people boo at you. So my point is this. Social media is different for everybody. Everybody has their own audience of followers and distribution, and those are different than the other guy. So you may see that Post Insurance, or, you know, I'm looking here at another agency, John Jacobs Insurance. You can see that they're, you know, okay, they're posting on some flood insurance. They had a few people that liked it. That post seemed to work really well for them. But you may post the same thing, and it may not do anything for you. And that's because you have a different audience than they do. And that's what you have to understand. And that's the frustrating part. There is no right way. And the only way to figure out the right way is through trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. And for, you know, for those of you that I manage your social media presences, that's what we do. That's why you kind of look and say, why did he post that? It's a probing effect. We're constantly probing to figure out what's going to work best for your distribution. And finally, and I know this sounds very generic, but this is what separated kind of me when this is what kind of got me to the next level. And I always kind of try to hold myself accountable. I say, look, if you want to get to the next level, you have to hold yourself accountable for what you're doing. People say, well, what does that mean? You know, what does that mean with social media? Well, what it means is the number one excuse I get from agents is I'll say, well, let me rephrase that. I'll get a lot of calls from agents. They'll say, I'm using social media, it's not working. So I'll go in and I'll look at their page and I'll say, well, look, you posted this, but you didn't post a graphic. You posted this, but you didn't put a link to your website. You know, I'm looking at how your page is set up and you missed X, Y, and Z. And every time I get the same excuse. Well, I don't really know what I'm doing, so it's not my fault. And again, that's the difference between being an expert and being a beginner who's not succeeding. It's being accountable. Looking at yourself and saying, look, I don't know how it works. I don't understand how these things work, you know, flow, but I'm going to take the time and teach myself how they work. And that's going to separate me from my competition because I'm going to understand it. Most common thing I hear, well, Ken, I don't have time to do that. I just don't. Well, you know, did you have time in 2001 to understand how email worked? I know for a fact, I remember when I started in this business, a lot of agents would call up and they'd say, can you just fax it to me? And I'd say, no, we use email here. Well, I don't know how to use email. Can you fax it to me? And I told them, look, you're not going to be around in 5 years if you don't want to learn email. Oh, that's not true. We'll always have fax machines. Well, in 2013, how many of you guys are faxing stuff to people? So my point is that you have to understand that this has evolved into a huge communication tool for about 185 million Americans. Whether we like it, whether we understand it, is irrelevant. What is relevant is the numbers are here. We are salesmen, and we have to gravitate to where the numbers go. And we have to be able to communicate with these people so they think of us as the solution when that life event occurs and insurance becomes the solution to their life event. So guys, hopefully that made sense, and hopefully you kind of refocused yourself